Here's something wild to think about. Every single day, we make thousands of decisions. What to wear, what to eat, whether to respond to that text or pretend we never saw it. And yet, when it comes to the big stuff, career moves, relationships, whether or not to buy that really expensive blender that swears it'll change our lives, we freeze. We overthink. We spiral into the void of what if I make the wrong choice? But here's the thing, making decisions is actually easy. No, really. We just make it complicated. I know what you're thinking. Okay, but tell that to me when I'm staring at 47 tabs open trying to pick a new health insurance plan. Fair, but stick with me for a second. The real problem isn't the decision itself. It's the pressure we put on it. Somewhere along the way, we convinced ourselves that every choice is life or death, that one wrong move will send us hurtling down some irreversible, terrible path where we end up broke, alone, and somehow wearing Crocs unironically. But most of the time, it's just not that deep. Think about the biggest hard decision you've made in the past year. Maybe it was changing jobs, moving to a new city, ending a relationship. At the time, it probably felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, right? Like if you picked wrong, you'd be doomed. But spoiler alert, you're still here. You survived. And you probably learned something, even if the choice didn't turn out exactly how you expected. That's the first mindset shift that makes decision-making easier, realizing that most choices aren't permanent. We act like picking the wrong thing will trap us forever, but the reality? You can pivot. You can course correct. You can, worst case, awkwardly backpedal and pretend you never made that choice in the first place. Looking at you, terrible haircut of 2017. The second thing? Stop waiting for absolute certainty. We love the idea of having some magical sign from the universe telling us exactly what to do. But that almost never happens. Most of the time, we get a gut feeling, a little nudge, maybe some mild indigestion from overthinking it too much. And that's it. That's all you get. The truth is, confidence in a decision doesn't usually come before you make it. It comes after you commit. Once you've actually chosen a path, your brain stops spinning in circles and starts figuring out how to make it work. And here's a fun twist. Sometimes the right choice and the wrong choice aren't even real. We get so stuck in analysis paralysis, trying to predict which path is perfect, that we forget life isn't that predictable. You make a choice, and then you make it right by showing up for it. The worst decision isn't choosing wrong. It's not choosing at all. All right, now that we've established that decisions aren't out to ruin your life, let's talk about how to actually make them faster and with less stress. All right, so how do you actually make decisions faster and with less stress? Because let's be honest, no one wants to waste 3 hours pacing around their apartment, debating whether to order sushi or tacos, only to end up too exhausted to decide and just eating cereal straight from the box. First rule of decision-making, set a deadline. No, not a vague, I'll figure it out soon, an actual concrete time limit. Because here's the deal, decisions expand to fill the time we give them. Ever notice how when you have a whole month to make a choice, you somehow spend 29 days avoiding it, then panic make a decision on day 30? Yeah. Turns out, we work best under a little pressure. Give yourself less time, and suddenly, you cut through all the mental clutter and focus on what actually matters. And speaking of clutter, get out of your head and into action. A lot of times, we think we're weighing our options, but really, we're just sitting in a thought spiral, stress-eating snacks and re-googling the same pros and cons lists. Here's a wild idea. Instead of just thinking about your choices, test them. Thinking about moving to a new city? Visit for a weekend. Wondering if you should start a new hobby? Take one class. Torn between two career paths? Talk to someone actually in those careers. Action beats overthinking every time. And can we talk about this idea that there's always a right choice? Because that's another thing that trips us up. This belief that one path leads to happiness and success, while the other leads to ruin. I hate to break it to you, but life doesn't work like that. There isn't some alternate version of you out there living the correct life while you bumble your way through the wrong one. You are always making the best decision you can with the information you have. And if new information comes up later, you adjust, you learn, you pivot. No one is keeping score on your life decisions except you. And honestly, you can put the clipboard down. Also, let's normalize trusting our instincts a little more. We act like our gut feeling these unreliable, shady sources, when in reality, they're just our brain processing a lifetime of experiences at lightning speed. If something feels off, there's probably a reason. And if something excites you but also kind of scares you, that's usually a sign you're onto something good. And finally, accept that not every decision will be perfect. Even if you do everything right, sometimes things won't turn out the way you expected. That's life. But the cool thing? You're adaptable. You've made it through every so-called wrong decision you've ever made before. And guess what? You're still standing. Stronger, wiser, and probably with a few good stories to tell. Look, at the end of the day, life is just a long series of choices. Some are big, some are tiny, and some are just straight up ridiculous. Like, why is it so hard to pick a Netflix show when there are literally thousands of options? We spend 40 minutes scrolling, and then what? We just rewatch The Office for the 17th time. But here's the thing. We don't have to make decision-making so dramatic. When we stop treating every choice like a game of high-stakes chess, we realize something pretty freeing. Most decisions are just steps, not destinations. You pick a path, you walk it, and if it turns out to be the scenic route instead of a shortcut, cool. You get some extra experience points along the way. And if you're still worried about making the wrong decision, let me hit you with this. Indecision is a decision. Sitting in limbo, refusing to choose, that's still a choice. You're just choosing to stay stuck. And honestly, no one wants to be stuck. You know that feeling when you're scrolling through your phone, flipping between apps, not really doing anything, but also not getting up to do something better? That's what indecision feels like in real life. It's exhausting, and the only way out is to pick something and move. So, what do you do the next time you're faced with a decision? You set a deadline, you trust your instincts, and you take action instead of overthinking. If it turns out great, amazing. If it doesn't, congrats, you've got a hilarious story for later. Either way, you win. And listen, if all else fails, just flip a coin. No, seriously. Not because the coin decides for you, but because the second it's in the air, you'll know what you want it to land on. That's your real answer. You've known it all along. All right, now before you click away to overthink what to watch next, let me know in the comments, what's a decision you've been stuck on? Let's talk it out. And if this video gave you even the tiniest bit of clarity, give it a like, maybe even subscribe, because apparently that tells the YouTube gods that I'm doing something right. Now go make a choice, any choice, and I'll see you in the next one.